I'm Levi Mosley with Western Pneumatics, here with Jeremy Patton, our master grinder technician. We're going to be going over our Model 2500 grinder today. Jeremy, what are we going to be talking about?
I will be demonstrating the installation and operation of your brand new 2500 grinder. This grinder is particular for side heads and finger joint heads to sharpen those. You will need to take most of all this plastic. We'll take this off. You have a corrosion inhibitor that is on parts, corrosion rust inhibitor that's on your grinder. We will need to remove this. The best way to get corrosion inhibitor off is some type of solvent or WD-40, which we use. When you spray that on this corrosion inhibitor, it will cause it to liquefy. It will kind of dissolve. Let it set on there for about 15 minutes. So you have your arbor. You're gonna have it on your bed. You will also have it on the Z-axis. We'll go over all the axis, but on the back of this, we'll spray this down. We'll also allow that to set up, dissolve the corrosion inhibitor. After you clean this, in most areas, they're going to start to want to rust right away. So after you clean this corrosion inhibitor off, just from the humidity level and where your location's at, you'll start to see this rust. So you want to prevent that. Whey oil is what we really recommend putting this. After we clean this off, you'll kind of put it down, even if you had to have a 30-weight oil, but we will recommend using a whey oil. We're ready to wipe it off. After about 15 minutes, you'll almost kind of see it starts to liquefy and it starts to dissolving your corrosion inhibitor. As you'll see, it'll come off a lot easier. No need to scrub or use brushes. Will come off pretty nice and easy. Also wipe it off down here. See, it'll just come right off. Save you a lot of time by letting it dissolve before you try to start scraping it off. Come nice and clean. So we'll also need to remove a shipping bracket, which we will move this forward, and we'll remove the corrosion inhibitor on the back side also. We also have in the back, we'll need to remove that as well. We'll go ahead and wipe it down. This is at the point of where you'll need to get this oiled, because as places like Arkansas, Mississippi, you'll wind up getting it rust. It'll almost rust almost immediately with this bare metal exposed. The whey oil I'll be using, it's 68, Vitac 68. It's really preferable to put this and coat these with a whey oil. Most of it, any type of a tacky oil, it'll stay on there. If you try to lubricate it with turbine oil or something like that, it will evaporate and you'll have rust issues and you will cause binding. So right now we're just cleaning that off and then we're going to lubricate that. So you get a little sprayer and get your whey oil on there, and it will keep it covered, moving it from rusting. Don't use grease. Stay away from any greases. They pick up a lot of material, especially when you're doing a grinding. It will actually pull all that high-speed steel or whatever you're grinding off of your knives, and it will wind up getting down in there, and that will be most of your issues if you're using any type of grease. So stick with the whey oil. went all the way down, I can feel it. So your brand new grinder will have a tool kit. This is what's going to come with your brand new grinder. You're going to have a flexible grease fitting. This is going to be your grease gun. That comes with your grinder. The one that it comes with is a hard tube. So you're going to replace this one with the flexible tube. This, you've got a spanner, 2 spanner wrenches here. Your arbor replacement spanner, and you'll have a set of open wrenches. And you also have another spanner. We'll go over each individual one of these tools and what their purpose is for. This is an extra spring for your probe assembly. Now this is your probe finger. The grinder is installed with one that's actually set for finger joiners or side head knives. This is actually going to be for a top and bottom planer. They've got straight knives, a smaller head, but so typically most of the time you won't be using that unless you're using a planer head, the top and the bottom.
Right. So if you're just doing finger joiner heads, the finger that ships on the machine is what you want?
Correct. If you're doing finger or even a side head knife, if you're looking at side planers, but this typically is only used for your straight knives on your planer heads, because that's going to be the one that's on there is too big and you won't be able to grind with it. But this always comes with the kit. So, you also have your grinding wheel. This customer in particular has a little bit higher grit. It's a 220 grit. Normally you're going to be around your 80-ish grit for finger joint knives. They have a diamond coated, like a Evo 3 or something on that. But anyways, your grinding wheel will come just like this. Most of the time you can see how there's a heavy bevel to it. That's going to help you with your gullet on finger joint knives. And that's really what this is designed for. As you can notice, there's also a cone to it. You will always be grinding on this edge. You won't be grinding on the back end. So if you need to grind on this side, you'll flip it this way and grind on this. You also have cleaning sticks to these eventually will get loaded. I would recommend go ahead and using a cleaning stick on every time after you grind one of your heads.
And that just cleans the grit or the gunk out of the grinding wheel itself?
Yes. Pulls that material out so it doesn't get loaded. If it gets loaded, you're looking at like an 80 grit, starts getting hot, you get a lot of friction because it's not taking any material off anymore. So it'll get hot. This is going to be your coolant tank. Now your cooling tank has got a pump that's inside. It's going to come just like this. You've got magnets that are going to pull your high-speed seal or whatever material that you're having. And if you notice, when you fill up, when your coolant comes in here, it's actually got to go up and over and then out. So you're removing most of the material to keep this clean. So as you're grinding, you're going to see these rings on here with the magnets. They're going to be pulling a lot of them filings out of there for you. So that will keep the tank relatively pretty clean. We have a chemical, there's a coolant that Western Pneumatics recommends. It's got a corrosion inhibitor in there. When you mix this with your coolant, you're going to be doing a 20-to-1. About a quart is what you're going to need in here, or to a half quart, depending on your water quality. If you have soft water, you're going to use probably a half. Hard water, you're going to use about a quart, but you don't want it to foam. You're going to start to see it kind of be milky and everything, but you don't want it to foam because then it's not working correctly. you're going to have your set of Allen wrenches, your grease that goes with the grease gun. You're going to have a brand new set of Allen wrenches. You'll need those to set up your grinder. You'll have also your operator's manual. And as we move over, we'll show you what this does. This is actually where you can set your grinding head up on here, so you're not damaging the grinder itself and to slide it on there. So this is just a setup table. And this is going to be on your first installation. You'll have these anti-vibration damping feet. These are going to be how you're going to be leveling your grinder. You'll need a forklift or something similar to be able to lift it up to get these underneath. As you can see, there's quite a bit of thread on here, so you will need to elevate that. So when you get your new grinder, don't go and hook your electrical up right away, because you're probably going to go up about 6 inches before you're going to be level. And so you're going to have your electrician wire that up after you have it decided on where you want your grinder and when you get it leveled in position. Then you're going to hook up your electrical to that. But we'll go over all that and we'll demonstrate that. So you'll be removing the shipping bracket. This is a 3/4 inch. You'll need a 3/4 inch socket, and I have a 3/4 inch wrench. It's a little difficult to get to, but with a socket extension, you can remove that bracket. You won't need this anymore after you remove it. It will just be for shipping purposes. So after we remove the shipping bracket, this will go away. You won't need that. So as you have your 2500 grinder uncrated, you'll actually have lag bolts in these 4 corners. You will need to remove those. Once you remove those lag bolts, then you'll need to lift the machine and brace the machine so you can install your leveling feet, vibration dampers. They will actually go into these holes where your lag bolts were. Locked up, you'll go to be moving your vibration dampening feet. This is what you'll be leveling the machine with. You'll place them right there. This washer will go on the top, the other washer on the bottom. If you can get it a lot higher, you can actually put the feet on a little bit easier if you have a forklift. So you screw that in and you feed that into these holes, and you'll do this on all 4 sides. Don't worry about getting it level at this point. We'll be doing that later. You also just get it right spot. Once you have this done, this is where the location of your grinder at this point you'll have that position exactly where you want the grinder. Make sure that you give yourself enough room. Keep in mind you'll need to access this later on, so don't push this up to the wall or anything. Give yourself a little bit of room, and probably 2 to 3 feet would be great. 3 feet's even better, but just remember that you will need to be back here. You will need to work on this. So if you smash this up against the back, you get your electrician to come in and plumb up your electrical, you won't be able to get back here. You don't want that. So just keep in mind, give yourself a lot of room on the back here. You'll be okay kind of putting it in a corner. And after we get all 4 feet on, we'll remove the bracing, and you'll have your electrician come in, and however we want to do that. But they'll probably do a knockout or something, but however. So after you get that up, you'll be able to remove your bracing. We've got the feet on, we've removed the blocking. We will, at this point, your grinder should be pretty much where you want this located. Again, make sure that you leave enough room and behind it. What your electrician will do is he will bring in your 480 volt AC 3-phase, and you will have a disconnect, and they will actually bring your electrical right in here, and we'll label this. So at this point, this is where you would bring in your electrical. Now you've got power to your equipment. You will turn your disconnect on. That will power the machine up. We will go into the menu, but the reason why we need electrical at this point is we need to move this axis forward. It's the only way that we can get access to where we need to level the machine. So after your electrical is hooked up, you're going to energize the machine, and that will be flipping your disconnect on the front into the on position. See, the screen will take a minute for it to load up. After the screen is loaded up, you will have an e-stop screen. This e-stop is a 3-position switch, so you'll pull up once, and then you will start, and there's a 3rd position. You'll see the light come on. That means that, and you can hear the click too, that also it means that you're ready to go, it's energized. You'll hit continue. For this, to level this machine, we will go into the jog grind position. At this point, this jog screen is for your hand control. You'll have a hand control, and you'll have multiple positions on here. The x-axis is the one that we're going to move, advance forward. So this right here, this will be your x-axis. Your y will just be a rotate. Your z is your in and out, and then this would be your forward or W. But right now we're just going to move this forward. As you can tell, we're going to be able to clean the rest of our corrosion inhibitor off. Plus, it will give us a spot to where we can perform the leveling on the machine. Power the machine up. We've taken our axis, we've moved the carriage forward. That would be the x-axis. That gives us room that we can clean the corrosion inhibitor, the rest of it off. This is where we'll use a machinist level to level our machine. So you'll go across both of the rails. You should be clean. We'll actually level it side to side and back to front by putting a level in this direction.
And we level it by adjusting the feet.
And we level this, yes, by adjusting the feet, 3/4 inch wrench with the feet that you've put on, and we'll go down there and we'll adjust accordingly to make this level. This isn't going to affect all the coolant. The grinder itself is designed for all the coolant flow to flow that direction, while this is maintaining level. The machine is leveled. We're energized. What I'd like to go over you now is, in your toolkit comes a variety of different tools. I'll go over each individual tool with you on the functionality on the grinder. We have a standard set of Allen wrenches. These will be your articulation on your probe assembly. So they will go into here. You have multiple different screws on this. This right here is going to be your arbor. This is where your cutter head actually goes, or side planer head. This tool is a spanner wrench, adjustable spanner. This actually goes onto these points. If you ever need to replace this or change this out, you'll break it loose using also this tool. Now this right here will slide down in here. Sometimes you can bump this loose and you can get that to screw out. Most of the time though, you will need to slide this pin down into this hole, which you'll use your Allen wrench and you'll unscrew this cap. And that will slide in like so. And then as you turn it, this will lock the shaft in place and you'll be able to break that loose to replace this. So that's the only purpose of this tool, of this spanner, and this pin. You've got another spanner wrench right here. The larger one is going to be remove your quill assembly. Now, if you can see down here, there's actually 2 pinholes. You'll actually be able to unscrew this and break this loose. It's the only time that this tool is used in this machine, is to remove the quill assembly. That's if it's got your bearings and everything. That's actually the entire thing where your grinding wheel goes. Most of the time, your tool will remove this snap zip tie. Now this is another spanner. This will be the tool that you'll probably use the most. This is actually going to go on and tighten your grinding wheel. And so that's where that's going to be used. Once you have that on there, that's what this is for. Go ahead and might as well install our grinding wheel. So grab your CBN wheel. If you look, that there's a different shape on this. So I'm going to demonstrate when we get our our cutter head on here. I'm going to demonstrate a grinding going that direction. So we're going to install it like this. So this is the side that you're actually going to be removing your material to sharpen with on this side. This way it'll be easier for me to show you how you could see the face of the knives a little bit easier. You'll be able to see it a little bit better. So what I will do is I will install it. You will be able to install this on either direction. You can grind either to the left or to the right on this. So that would be you're going to be grinding either this direction or this direction. Sometimes if you have a bigger head, you won't be able to grind way out here because it won't be able to go this far. So for the majority of the time, you'll be grinding it from, if you're standing back here, from right to left the majority of the time. You'll have to take that off, so you'll get your Allen wrenches. You'll have to take this cover off. Now this right here, if you can see, it actually has concaved. Now this side is actually going to be the surface that goes on to your CBN wheel, so your grinding wheel. So it's got a concave, so there's less surface area on there. That way that this will set nice and flat and flush onto your grinding wheel. Don't do it this way. That's the wrong way. You want to flip it, and it needs to be installed this. After you get that on there, you get pretty snug. And then you grab your spanner wrench. And you really kind of just need to tap it just like that. That's usually good enough to get it nice and tight. You don't need to over tighten this. So that's the proper way to install your grinding wheel. We'll put this cover back on, but these wrenches are going to be used for a few different things. We'll have to go over and I'll demonstrate. It'll be easier for me to show you when we actually have the cutter head on here. But there's a couple of adjustments here. We'll have these adjustments and these, and then that way we'll properly show you how to set up the probe assembly. But on your axes, we'll go over this with your X. It's going to be moving this direction, front to back. That will be your X. Your Y, if you can tell, it'll rotate this axis. So that is your Y. Now your Z, it'll be difficult to see, but this is actually going to be what's removing your material. But you can, this is
the grinding wheel in and out.
This is moving the grinding wheel anyway. Z is going to be the amount of material. So if you're looking at removing a half a thou or 1,000, that is your Z axis. That is what's indexing in to your grinding. So this is moving in and out. Now 4 or W is what is going to be removing material going down. So we can demonstrate that when we get the grinding wheel, and then we can get a little bit more explanation on that. So those are our 4 axes. You also have a times 10 or a times 1. So this will move you in very small increments. As you can tell, it's a lot smaller, and then when I go to times 10, it's going to move you a lot quicker. So you've got a creep, and then you have full motion. You need to go in later. I think that's pretty much it. Tools. I'll put this cover back on. So we're going to be adjusting our lead, and the lead is the angle of our CBN wheel. So right now, when we send these grinders out, they are at 0 lead, which means it's not going either direction. We're 0. So what you want to do is depending on which way you're wanting to grind, in our example, what we're doing is we're going to be grinding in this way. So this will be your knife. If you can see, you've got an angle, and we're going to be grinding on this face, and I'm going to put it in this position. So we're going to be grinding in that direction, and as this is moving backwards and forwards, we want to make sure that this is coming in contact with the knife first, and as we pass through it, it will make less contact. And our adjustment for this is 3/1000 lead. I will illustrate, show you how we adjust this at 3/1000 by using a dial indicator. Your dial indicator will set this up. And what I like to do is I like to make a little mark on the CBN wheel, so you're using the same thing, because typically these things are, a little different when they're brand new. They haven't been broken yet. But so you'll zero this out, and then as you move forward, you'll come all the way out, and then you will set it down. But you also you'll go back to that line, that mark that you actually marked on there. Once you have 3/1000, this would be lower in our example, because you're going to be making contact with this side first, because we're using the back side of the CBN wheel. And then this side would be 3/1000 high, because we would be angling at this. So this would actually be high. And then as you use your dial indicator, this side is going to be 3/1000 in the high position. So we can go ahead and zero this out. And then go back here. So this would be low. So right now we are angled like this. It's about 4/1000, which is fine. We're looking for 3 to 5/1000 on this. behind where you're adjusting this lead, there is 2 screws. There's a hatch on the back, and then you've got set screws to be able to adjust. It actually tilts and rotates right here. It pivots this back and forth. So it's actually sliding right here. There's a pin right in here holding this, and this actually changes, which changes your angle right here on the lead. You will adjust the lead by removing these 2 button head bolts on the side, the socket heads. The door will come down. Now underneath, what you'll see is you're going to have 2 bolts where you grab your 9/16 inch wrench and place it and loosen these bolts. While your dial indicator is still in place, make this adjustment on one end. So as you're changing this, you will be able to see it on your actual dial indicator up there. That way you don't go too far. So it'll give you a little idea. But right around 3 to 4 thousandths is what you need, so it doesn't take much. So below, after these are loose enough, you're going to take and look and see you've got 2 different directions where this can go for your lead. This way is going to pivot you out. This would be this screw right here is going to be the one that we want. So this one right here will, when we tighten that, it's going to shift this and it's going to put that top edge in. And we will be able to tell this. If you were grinding on the other direction, you'll be doing the opposite and going the other way. And remember, when you so I will back this one off. And then this one we will tighten. And then as it's moved, you can feel it. Once you get it, as you're moving this and you're watching your dial indicator on there, you do 3 thousandths. Go ahead and tighten these. Tighten these bolts first. This way you won't move. Now once that's tight, you can take these and lock these into place. They're really just to kind of adjust. They're just there to allow you to move your lead. But if you look down below, it's just a shoulder bolt, and these push it side to side, which shifts this piece. Now once you have your lead to where you want it, you'll go ahead and you put this cover back on. That is how you adjust your lead. While it's important to adjust lead, is if you drag on a lot of your knives, especially your finger joint knives, it creates a lot of friction and heat. So if you have this at 0 and you're grinding it, it definitely it'll heal in there, and it'll create a lot more friction and heat. So adjust your lead to 3 to 3/4 thousandths, and you should be good. Now to fill your coolant tank up, this is approximately it's a little over 5 gallons. We're going to use the Chemstar Cool that we have, and there's going to be a quart of that. Typically, most of your evaporation, the coolant will stay in here. Start at half a quart and work your way up. Like again, the hard water, you can get a whole quart in there. Soft water tends to do a lot of foaming. And when it foams, it's not working correctly. It'll just cavitate. And there's also a corrosion inhibitor in. So I've got a 5-gallon bucket. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to fill this tank up. And when we put this in, be careful with this. So there's louvers on this right here. The back does not have any. So when you put your grinder after the coolant is done and it comes down the drain, you're going to want it in this side, not this side, because what that does is as this fills up, it will travel up and over the magnets, so the most of your material stay right in here. If you do it like, if you come in here with it and you're draining it, it'll just drain straight out. Almost all of your filings, your grinder filings and everything will, they won't be filtered out. They'll go down in here and get stuck. But there's multiple spots here where you can change where your coolant exchanges. So it will be going into here, most of the solids will fall or go into the magnet. Up and around, same thing. It will come in here and it will leak out. And there's also another compartment here. So most of those materials, because you don't want them in your pump because that will ruin your pump. So after you've got the coolant in there, you've got your electrical, and you've got also your, this is where your discharge of your pump is going to be at, and there's a tube right there that we're going to go ahead and plug in. So it will come, your grinder is going to come exactly like this. With this tube on here, you will just put it. So in this way, you don't fill it like this, going and fill it right there, so it comes up and over. Your electrical tucked down over here is going to be a regular 120 volt outlet. This is going to be controlled on and off through your screen. So we'll rotate like this. That way it's easy to unplug this and take this into a different location or whatever you need to clean this out. You're gonna probably want to clean it out maybe once a month and really take it all apart and spray it down and get it nice and clean. These you can pretty much wipe off at the end of the day. It'll hold most of all the filings. So don't wait to clean this off, because once all the filings are on here, it's not going to pull them off anymore. So if you wipe that down per each day, you'll keep the grinder in operating condition, good operating condition. So we have a hose. It's all going to become pre-assembled. So there is your coolant. This is going to go ahead and spray your nozzle. If you'll notice up here, there's a valve. Now what this does is when this is open, this is actually going to be the discharge of your pump. We're going to plug that in, but I just wanted to show you how the coolant is going to go through this hose. It's going to come through the back of the grinder. It's going to come into here, and you have a shut-off valve, on and off shut-off valve right there. What this is for is when that's opened, your coolant will come out here, and it gives you a way to clean your grinder, to hose off the sides and to keep it clean and to clean this off, and then you can go ahead and shut that, and then that will stop the flow in there. It's just a handy tool to clean so you're bringing it in, you can just put it right back in the drainage right there. So we will go ahead and make the connection. It's just a push lock. You just shove it in. All these are just push locks. You just push them in. like so. And if you ever do get a little bit of foaming or anything like that, just check your coolant level. You'll have to kind of put this aside. You'll have to take a look in there and make sure that you've got some water in there. That will evaporate. You're with just temperatures in there, but you're also evaporating because you're also spraying it. You're aerating the coolant. So keep an eye on that. So when you first initially get this in there, your coolant needs to be mixed. So I can show you on the screen. Again, start at half a quart. We're going to pour that in there. We're going to mix it. And the way that we're going to mix your coolant is going to be in your maintenance screen. And you'll go to View I/O. And right here you can see where you're going to be turning your pump on. Now, kind of watch over here when you turn that on. It's going to probably spray a little bit. You're going to have air in that line, so it may kind of shoot everywhere. So yeah, have your door closed. I will. So you can kind of see it shot water pretty rapidly. So we'll let that sit probably for maybe 10 minutes, where you go look at the tank and look in there and make sure that it's mixed real well. See, about 10 minutes letting it run like this, you'll have a good mix.